So I'm just going to throw a spanner in the works. It's also probably one other very famous player's last World Cup.
Yeah.
And I noticed you're not backing him at all.
Hello and welcome to a special Real Talk episode. My name is Mark and I'm here with a special guest, Michael, who is a tech influencer and YouTuber. So Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And today we have kind of like an interesting topic that we want to talk about because we're getting really close to the World Cup. And so we wanted to kind of do two different things. The first is maybe we're both football fans to some extent, right?
We are.
Okay. Today we're going to be looking at some of our feature sets for the Realme 10, and we're going to be kind of playing a game just based off of the theme of World Cup, where I'm going to be picking one feature and he's going to be picking another, and we're going to make our case for why one of those should win over the other one. So are you ready?
Sounds good. I'm ready.
Okay. So the first thing that I want to ask you is, who is your favorite to win this year's World Cup?
Well, unfortunately, it's France.
France, okay.
Which are England's kind of biggest rivals. They're just across the water from us. And I got to say, they were the previous winners, and their squad is still super strong. Obviously, you've got Mbappe, who is probably going to take over as the best player in the world once Ronaldo and Messi have gone. You've got Benzema, that has won the Ballon d'Or and was just on fire for Real Madrid this season. And I just think they've just got a solid foundation and experience, and they could push it all the way, I think.
I think so. I mean, I do think that they got bit by the injury bug a little bit because I think Varane,
right?
He's the fullback or the center back for Man United.
Yeah.
He got injured. I think that his status is up in the air. And I also just read that Paul Pogba might be injured as well.
Really?
So he may not be able to participate. But they do have people like Griezmann, right? So I think like even with those injuries, they're still stacked enough that they may not even miss those guys.
That's the kind of not nice thing about the World Cup being at this time in November, is because if a player gets an injury, that's it. There's no recovery time.
Yeah.
He's gone from Premier League or La Liga straight into injury. There's no recovery time for the World Cup. So like it's kind of ruining players' dreams, but it sort of mixes stuff up for us as the fans.
I think like the romantic person in me wants Argentina.
Because of Messi?
Of course. I think it's Messi's last World Cup. I would love to see somebody of his like stature and just what he's meant to the game being able to take home a World Cup. He's in good form with PSG. He's really looking strong, and I think that Argentina just in general has a lot of good players right now.
Right.
And so I think that this is a great chance for them to be able to win.
So I'm just going to throw a spanner in the works. It's also probably one other very famous player's last World Cup.
Yeah.
And I noticed you're not backing him at all.
So I think
about Ronaldo.
Exactly. So I mean, I like Ronaldo. I think he's an amazing goal scorer. But I tend to just appreciate maybe Messi's game a little bit more.
Yeah.
But when I look at just how elite Messi is at not just scoring, but also setting other people up to score as well, and just like the humility with which he plays the game, I think that it's easier to root for Messi, I think, than Ronaldo. Not to take anything away from Ronaldo, because I think he's great. All of the goals that he scores do align with his team's needs.
Yeah.
Like they need him to score goals, and he does that. But I just think that as I've grown to appreciate football, I've also started to appreciate more Messi's style of play. I think like now what I want to do, especially because it kind of ties into the fact that our realme 10 is really kind of an underdog. It's not at like those flagship levels that you consider like a lot of other phones. But in the segment of the realme 10, it's really kind of under the radar performance. And I want to kind of parallel that and ask you, like, maybe who isn't that top tier team that you think is a dark horse to be able to potentially win the World Cup?
Well, I was looking at a North American team. It's not your country, unfortunately. Although I think the United States will do well. I'm going for Canada.
Okay, I was thinking about that as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my reasoning is it's a UK coach. I don't know his name, but I heard he managed both the women's team and now the men's team. He took both teams to the finals, which is awesome considering Canada football or soccer as they call it there probably isn't a prominent sport in their national sporting culture, but to take both teams to the final is an amazing feat. And I think, I might be wrong, but I think I read just a few days ago that he has something like a 70% win ratio, which is higher than most elite managers in Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, whatever. So I think there's a bit of magic there, and I hope they push on.
I'm also going to be a homer and say my dark horse is the United States, but I actually probably feel better about them in 2026 than I do about them this year.
Right.
I think one of the reasons is like you could say that this is a golden era for the United States men's national team.
It is.
You have Christian Pulisic, who's playing for Chelsea, although not really playing that well or that much. You have Weston McKennie, who's playing for Juventus. You have, Brendan Aronson and Tyler Adams, who are with Leeds. You have Serginho Dest, who was in Barcelona. I think he's at Atletico Madrid right now. I'm not sure. I think he's either on loan or got transferred. But you have Gio Reyna, who's doing well for Borussia Dortmund. So you have like big name players playing for big name teams. But the thing that I think holds them back is their manager. So the exact opposite of why you like Canada is I think one of the reasons I don't feel super confident in the United States, because it feels like Greg Berhalter, their coach, is more of a system coach that works better with club rather than country, because the country, the national team, doesn't have enough time to implement that system, and it seems like he's just forcing them to do stuff where they don't have that time to develop the chemistry.
Right, okay.
Yeah. The oldest player of the guys that I just mentioned, I think, is only 24 years old. And so that's why I feel good about them 4 years from now.
Yeah.
But I also think, like, give this team enough time and they may surprise you. Yeah. All right. I think that it's time for us to move on to the next segment, which is talking about our feature sets for the realme 10. And so we don't actually know which feature set we're going to have to kind of fight for or say is going to win.
Yeah, we have no idea. We're just going to pick up a paper and defend our feature to the hilt.
Exactly, to the death. All right, so I got our 8 plus 8 gigabyte dynamic RAM. And what did you get?
And I got the Helio G99 chipset.
Okay, so you went first for the football matchups, and I'm gonna go first on this one.
All right, go for it.
So I like having options, right? You could have 8 gigabytes of RAM, or you could add an extra 8 gigabytes of RAM. So you can be all the way up to 16 gigabytes of RAM. And one of the things that I like about this is because you don't always have to be running so much RAM, which could potentially, drain your battery or things like that. But for ultimate performance and also guaranteed instantaneous app switching, I think that having that extra bit of RAM can really kind of take you over the top in terms of performance. One other aspect kind of baked into this, although not a part of RAM, is our 256 gigabytes of external storage. And so I love the fact that you can have tons of apps, not having to worry about having to delete or make room all the time or running out of room for photos and videos. So this type of feature set on the Realme 10, I think, is kind of my personal favorite and why I think it deserves consideration for being the winner of this matchup.
Okay, so Helio G99 chipset. This, as much as RAM is important, this is the engine of the phone. And you gotta have an engine if you wanna move anywhere. And with this new chipset, you get a 40% higher power rating than before. It's more powerful, so that means you can get higher frame rates in games like PUBG. I think this chipset goes up to 40 FPS on PUBG, which is pretty amazing. And I like batch editing photos as well, so I like creating on my phone as well. Like, I take the picture on my phone, I don't put it onto a computer screen or anything. I like to line them all up in Adobe Lightroom, and being able to power through all of them, load them through and render them is pretty cool. And the other thing with this chipset is it is much more power efficient than last year as well. So if you're gaming, you don't want to keep plugging it in to the charger, because then it's just going to overheat and you're going to start getting lag and stuff like that. So I think just for a snappy all-round system and dedicated gaming and things like that, I think the Helio G99, you've got to go with it for sure.
I do think that is probably the favorite to win this matchup, but I think that at least the dynamic RAM deserves a shout out. And that also reminds me, you guys are going to have the opportunity to kind of vote on your favorite features, and we can find out ultimately which feature is the winner. So we can talk all we want about these different matchups, but you guys are going to be the ones who decide who ultimately wins.
Okay, so I've got the ultra slim, lightweight, light and practical design. Okay, well that is very important, because as a person that likes to lay on the sofa with their phone like this, I cannot tell you the amount of cramp I get in my hand if I'm holding that thing for too long. And this is quite a good sized phone, as in the screen size is a nice size, big. So I think having that in your hand for a long period of time, if you're watching YouTube or you're on Netflix or you're playing games, you don't want it heavy. You don't want your little finger here to get that horrible little cramping sensation. If you're going to use the phone properly, if you're going to be a power user, which probably if people are watching this video, they're into tech, they're going to be using their phone properly. You want it nice and lightweight, use it all day.
Absolutely. I actually hate to admit this, but there are times where I'm watching YouTube as I'm falling asleep and I've maybe dropped the phone on my face. Yeah. So We've all done it.
Yeah,
exactly. So I have the 5,000 milliamp hour massive battery and the 33 watt super vote charge. So I am somebody who often forgets to charge my phone, and am also often not in a position to charge my phone immediately.
Right.
And so being able to have, number one, a battery that lasts longer and doesn't need as many charges is a lifesaver. But number two, if I've forgotten to charge my phone and I'm about to head out, being able to plug in and have a really fast charge to get me at least up to like 10 to 20% to get out the door, I think is super convenient. Like, I do like lightweight, like a lightweight design and like a thin design, but I would say for me personally, having that extra battery life and faster charging has been way more of a game changer for me. Okay, so this matchup is kind of like, do you like to look at photos and watch videos, or do you like to take photos and take videos? And so I have the 30 hertz or the 90 hertz super AMOLED display. And this is perfect for me because I do not consider myself a photographer or a videographer. You can ask my friends, I'm very terrible at framing photos. So I just kind of stay away from that. I do spend most of my time on my phone reading or watching videos or things like that. And so being able to have a really great display is way more important for me personally, and something that when I'm kind of measuring specs of a phone, something that I care a little bit more than the amount of megapixels of a camera per se.
Okay, no, that's a pretty good argument. I do love a nice smooth display as well. So, but I have the 50 megapixel color AI camera. And I'm a person that does use the camera a lot. I actually film my entire YouTube channel using my phone with the video, and I take all the thumbnails with my phone as well. So I'm always looking at camera specs. And having the 50 megapixels, you're not always going to be in that 50 megapixel mode. It will bin down, but having the increased pixel count does help even in the bin down situation. But even as a photographer, I would say having that 50 megapixel mode on standby if I need it for a big landscape shot or something that I want to crop into or something I want to edit and get the most out of the data in Lightroom, having that 50 megapixel option is a big deal for me personally. But I see what you're saying about having that nice smooth hertz display. Like I can't go back to a 60 hertz display. Like now I've had a higher refresh screen. When I play on a phone, I almost think it's broken. You know, it's that slow. So I kind of see what you're saying, but the camera, without the camera on the phone, I wouldn't have any hobby or anything like that. Because you know, you can spend money on a big camera setup, but the best camera is the one you've got on you, and that's it.
And you're a content creator, so obviously it matters a lot to you to be able to have that camera.
My feature is the 200% Ultra Boom speaker, okay? So being able to turn up the speaker to 200% is pretty good, especially on a lower end entry phone, I would say, is really good. It might not have the depth of those $1,000 phones, but at least you can turn it up at a party, use it as an outdoor speaker, like for barbecues on the beach. 200%, that will get pretty loud in my opinion. So yeah, I think it's nice to just have that in your pocket ready to go instead of a portable speaker, you know, it's pretty good.
It's true, it gives you options, going back to my dynamic RAM point, right?
Yeah, sure.
So for me, I have the side-mounted fingerprint scanner, which I do like a lot because I find myself, I'm never like with both hands free when I'm carrying my phone and being able to just kind of unlock my device. I do make sure that there's some sort of biometric mechanism that allows me to open my phone. I don't like the idea that I have a password that could easily be seen and then done, or nothing at all, which I don't know why anybody would not have some sort of password protection on their phones. But for me, being able to just have that convenient location to be able to unlock my phone. Also, like the accuracy rate on our biometric fingerprint scanner is 99%. So there's not going to be a lot of like false inputs or like the chance for you to like keep trying to open it.
You would really have to fail yourself.
Yeah, I feel like, what's wrong with me? Did I burn my thumb and I don't have a fingerprint anymore?
Exactly.
Like, what's
Been
going on?
in the shower too long or something.
Exactly. So I think that just ergonomically, I enjoy like the side fingerprint scanner a lot. It's pretty convenient. I don't have to like wrap or warp my finger to get to that front button.
Yeah. I think the side mount, if I had the choice between, because it used to be at the back, right? And that was a little risky because you had a lot of camera units there on a lot of phones and you just smudge them all up.
Yeah.
And with the under displays, it's okay, but I think it's just so natural because it's just how you hold it. And you don't even, I mean, after a couple of weeks, you don't even think I need to unlock it. It just happens. You just pick it up and that's that. You don't even think about it. So yeah, it's good. It's good. Speaker though, you gotta have a party. You know?
Gotta have a party with the speaker. Yeah. If you don't have one of our Bluetooth speakers, then yeah, that phone comes in handy.
There we go.
All right. So I think that we made good points and good defenses of all of our different feature sets.
I think so. It's a lot of feature sets.
Exactly.
Good ones.
It's true. Yeah, we're pretty proud of what we're putting out there with this 10. I think it's a in many ways best in class in a lot of different areas, including what you got to talk about was the G99 chipset. So it's definitely something at this segment that we think if this is where you're at, you're going to love it. You're going to be proud of this phone. And it was a lot of fun having you on the podcast to kind of speak about it.
Thank you for having me. And I look forward to getting my hands on it for real and having a play with it.
Yeah, so you'll be able to check out some of his future content where we're going to be giving him some of these devices to check out more in depth and give you an even more detailed analysis of this phone. But at the end of the day, like we said before, it's going to be you guys who are deciding which of these features is the ultimate winner of this device. And so thank you guys for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.